Hello and welcome back to my craft room. I've decided to have another go at the November Scrawlr challenge. Sounded a bit hesitant there because it's actually the 15th of December and we only got these a few days ago, a couple of days ago or so, because of all the hold-ups with the post at the moment. I expect the December box will be arriving soon, so it's time to crack on and have another go at the November one. So let me show you what I've been up to. So here's the challenge for this month. It's leading light, step into the light, experiment with tonal values by building layers of shading and mark making to capture the delicate balance of light and dark in your creations. So this time I've got a completely different idea I want to try. I'm gonna mainly be using the graphite supplies. The pastels may come into the background later on, but maybe not at all. So we got these two pastel pencils and a sharpener to go with them, and then we got these three different kinds of graphite. I'm also going to be using this sanding block thing because I think it's a nice way to get a point on this, and also I can use the shavings to create a nice kind of blended background. I'm also going to use my blending stumps because that'll help me to just, I know they weren't included in the box, but they're just helping me to make the most, get the most out of the supplies that did come in the box. And then there is an eraser on the end of this one, but when you're laying down really thick layers of graphite and you just want to take some of it off, this eraser's, you know, it gets mucked up very quickly, and I had to keep taking it off to the side and rubbing it on a piece of paper to clean it, and then it didn't have an edge anymore. So I will use it a bit, but I also need some other erasers. So I've got this one, which is like a pencil shaped one. Like I actually sharpen it in here. In fact, I could do that now. So you can like erase really fine lines, which is nice. I've got this mechanical one. We might need a new battery on that one. That's brilliant too. Kneaded eraser, putty rubber as we call them in the UK. You can get so many effects once you've laid the graphite down, stippling it off with this, or just rolling it into a point and getting tiny marks off, and then just a normal very filthy looking eraser. I'll clean that up a bit before I use it. So my idea, now I love this, we got as well in the box, we got this Frisk Scrawlr book. I love that they've put an easy peel label on it, so I can just do this, and now I can customize this however I like, which is in fact what I will end up doing once I finish this little project I'm going to start now. So I was looking for different ways of playing with lights and darks and different kinds of marks, and what I thought would be quite fun is to do like a layered cityscape in this pad. I think we've got 15 sheets. Yeah, I've obviously already used a couple. I used one for swatching and one for one of my challenge pieces. I've got plenty left to play with. I'll probably use 3 or 4 for this. And what I've done is I've just roughly sketched out a completely nonsensical, I'm thinking of how it would look if you were going through a city, like when we go from here in Norfolk into London on the train. And what you see from the train window, you get some houses right down by the railway, and then a bit further back you get the kind of office blocks and things like that, and then further away still you can see factory chimneys and things like that. That's the kind of effect I want. So I will sketch all of this in and then cut around the outlines. I've made sure that there's no gaps. I'm doing it this way up, for reasons that will become obvious. I think I've made sure that I can do a continual cut line all the way along from one side of the page to the other, and then the next layer back, they're bigger buildings but they're a bit further away, so they're kind of the same size, but I've got to make sure that there's room for them to show above and between this top layer of buildings. I hope I'm making sense. And then further back still, more of the tall kind of city buildings, but they're looking smaller because again they're further away. And one of the things I love about London and other cities, but I know London better, is that in amongst these huge kind of skyscrapers and very modern buildings made of metal and glass, you suddenly get a little tiny, I've made this one into a church because I thought that would be a nice touch. You just suddenly get these little tiny buildings which would have been really big when they were first built, but now they're just dwarfed by these massive modern structures. And then the next layer will just be possibly some very, very faint in the background buildings, but mostly it will just be a kind of a grey, foggy, cloudy sky. I also got my son to do me a few AI generated images to help me get some ideas of buildings. I'm going to see if I can find them for you a minute. Buildings as seen, or I think he put in something like cityscape from train window, so it went very heavy on the train window, and it might be that I'll end up wanting to add a train window, and I might even cut the cover into a train window so I get that effect. That could be really fun. Another one, and you can see when you look closely at these AI generated images, because they're not actually mashed together photos or anything, they're literally generated from what the AI software has learnt about the prompts, the terms that you give it as a prompt. So they're absolute nonsense when you really look at them. They don't make sense at all, but they just give that impression. That's one of the things I love about them. This one, it went very heavy on the train tracks, which I love, and I'm going to keep these images because I think they might be really good for another exercise. I mean, look at all the lights and darks in there for a start, but not for what I've got in my mind for this one. And these kind of things like these, I love these buildings here. Again, nonsensical, but give that impression that I want, that juxtaposition of different kinds of architecture, old and new, different kinds of building materials. And there's another one. And this has got the idea of the nearby houses down by the railway tracks, and then bigger kind of blocks of flats and things a bit behind, and then behind that again you've got the more industrial and kind of office buildings and things. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at, and I think this one at the top right here particularly is a good example of how it seems to me that when you're looking at a cityscape, the buildings nearer to you are going to be more contrasted, have a lot more detail, they'll be generally darker, and then as you go towards the horizon, as far as you can see, you get these kind of faint, less detail, sort of lighter grey kind of effect buildings very much in the background. And although this is a made up picture that doesn't necessarily make sense, you can see that, you know, the general impression, it doesn't look unrealistic. So I know that that kind of light grey in the background and darker towards the front with more contrast and detail is kind of what I'm after. There's one more. It suddenly decided to introduce a bike there. It's like a Lego city all of a sudden for some reason. Yeah, these are all a bit strange. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to just record perhaps a little bit of each page, or a little bit of making a start on it. But this is going to take quite a long time, probably. I want to use mainly these three types of graphite tools that I've got here, in lots of different ways and lots of different kinds of marks and things to get plenty of contrast and detail into these buildings. And then I'll need a sharp knife to cut around it all, and then we'll see. It might look naff at the end, it might not work at all, but once I've got it into my head I've got to try it just to see. So I'm going to put something on to watch, and I'll show you a speeded up version of what I'm At this I'm filthy. I've been going at this for about an hour now, and this is the easiest page because it's got the least detail and the least kind of tonal differences. I've deliberately made it quite, there are differences, but it's kind of more all on one level, and so yeah, this is going to be the quickest page to do, and then now that one will be more. That'll be more time consuming, and that one more so. So I'm going to stop recording this now, and I'll come back and show you when I've done the other pages, and then I'm ready to cut out around the outlines and layer them together and see how it's looking. And you know, I could even cut out more pieces out of the remaining pages that I've got and add more pieces in. I'll see how I go. Okay, so I've I decided there I was going to cut everything out just to make sure it was kind of going to work before I spent any more time shading it all in, and I'm quite happy. It's kind of looking how I imagined it. I still like the idea. I could decide that I want to cut little pieces of card. I could use some of the empty box and put little pieces of the empty box in between to kind of permanently hold them sort of apart from each other a little bit like that to give them more. But I quite like the idea that I could turn the pages. Now, as you can see, I've had to cut this one off the thing because when it was, this is where it was, and there wasn't enough of it showing. So I've cut it out, and what I'm going to do is stick it in again a bit further up like that. That still leaves me a little bit of space to do a bit of cloudy, foggy London sky behind there. Oh, I'm saying London. This isn't any particular part of London or any particular buildings, but London's kind of what I've got in my head. There we go. So that's you can kind of see where I'm going there. So I'm going to spend probably a few hours now painstakingly putting in lots of different texture, lots of different thicknesses and weights of mark and shading and everything in here. It's going to be quite a painstaking get my head over it thing, which I don't think I'm going to be able to film very well, so I'm going to carry on and do that, and I'll come back and show you in a mo when it's all done. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how that's working out so far. It's sort of how I had it in my head. I just I don't have the skill with drawing buildings to make it really good, but yeah, I'm happy enough with it. What I'd quite like to do is introduce some birds here and there, and maybe some telephone wires, things like that, to give it a bit of life. But I'm not going to put people in there or anything. But anyway, here I go. I'll see you in a mo. It'll be a few hours for me. Done about as much on this as I can stand to do. I'm just going to add the kind of sky in the background now. So the way I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to use the softest graphite that I've got, which is the 6B, and I'm going to use my sanding block, and I like this as a way of I might have worn that out, as a way of getting kind of a point on these things, but also you can use the dust that comes off to get this kind of blended effect. And you can do this obviously with a bit of normal sandpaper or an emery board or something. It doesn't have to be this fancy thing, it's just that I happen to have this. So then I could use a tissue or my finger or a blending stump or whatever. I'm just going to go on my finger to start with. At the moment I just want to get kind of a blended patchy background. Yeah, it's about the sort of level of grey that I'm after there, so that will do. And then I just want kind of a suggestion of maybe just some more buildings faintly in the background. Yeah, that's the kind of effect I want, just so there's something, sort of a suggestion of something in the background. Like that. Right, and now let's see if I could get some sort of cloudy effects. So I'll take a bit of this away, but not too much. It just makes me think of when you've been away and you're coming back into London on the plane and you've been to somewhere warm and bright and colourful. You come back into London in the middle of winter, all grey and foggy. There we go. I know it looks like a bit of a mess, but it's just for the background. And then last little touches, I just want a few birds in the sky. Okay, that's all I want, and that is, I think, me done. Let me get all the graphite dust off my hands. So here we go, let's have a final flip through. Here's all the things I've used. Here's my Frisk Scrawlr book. And starting with the background, then added some buildings in the distance, kind of soft grey because they're in the background, then some buildings a bit nearer to us, so they're a little darker, there's more contrast and detail, and then finally in the foreground we've got the little buildings that you tend to see along the railway track as you're coming into a big city. So yeah, if I hold it like that you can kind of get more of an idea of the depth of it. I really enjoyed doing this, and I might still cut the cut a frame here and have it as a kind of a window frame framing the whole thing. Yeah, I think I probably will do that, and I'm really chuffed with that. Brill. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I quite enjoyed that, and I might work back through the sketch pad in the other direction and do a different scene. I quite enjoyed that. Maybe I'll do mountains or trees or something. It'd be quite fun to do it that way. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining me today, and I'll see you again really soon.